Good morning, friends. Hello, hello, hello. I need to grab the cup of joy because it's full of coffee. That's why it's a cup of joy. Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. How are you this morning on this Thursday? Good morning, good morning. Hello, hello. Good to see you all this morning. Hello. Good morning, Donna. Glad you're here. Karen, how are you? Glad you're well. Been on my heart with the loss in your family. I hope things are going all right. I hope you're finding your way. Donna, I hope you had a great day with your mom yesterday. I hope you got to see her and spend some time and celebrate 96 trips around the sun. That's amazing. So I hope she's well. Hey, Vicky. Yes, you found us. Hello, hello. Oh, good. Good morning, everybody. Had a great day with Mom. Oh, that's good news. That's terrific. Nice. Awesome, awesome. Morning, everybody. Can rejoice in that. Oh, you're welcome, Karen. These are hard passages. They are hard passages. Good morning, Cecile. Hello. How are you? You doing all right? So yes, just as an update, yesterday Chicken and Bingo was glorious. We had a great group and had a lot of fun playing bingo and rejoicing. And our very own moderator, Denise Ward, won the Sox tickets. I couldn't be happier. That really awesome. So it was a good night and of just joy together in fellowship. So. Good morning, everybody. It is the 21st day of July on this 11/11, and I'm glad that you're here. You encourage me by your presence, by coming here and being this, and I hope this presence and this journey encourages you. And so that is the whole hope of this thing. And so I want to talk this morning about a word that gets really misunderstood, particularly as it's used in the New Testament. And I think if we rightly understand it, it can actually change, well, it can change everything. And the word is truth, and it's the word that gets translated from the Greek which is aletheia. That's the word in Greek that is the word truth that we find in the New Testament. It's used 98 times in the New Testament. It tends to talk a fair bit about truth. And the thing is we think of and one of the ways in which you could describe this. We're going to talk a little philosophical today, but trust me, it's going to be great. It's going someplace and it's got a landing. So, all right, just stay with me. So, we're going to talk about this notion of truth. Hey, Jamie. Hey, Jane. John, I hope you're well. Glad you're here. We're talking about this notion of truth as it's translated from the Greek. What is said in the Greek about this word and how it's constellated, so that we might understand this idea of what we're talking about when we're talking about what's true. I mean, part way it's defined as like reality, like which probably not so bad. The way I often will talk about the logos, which is the really real, the things that are actually real when you take away all subterfuge, the things that endure in through eternity, when you take away time and space, when you take away all the other things, the things that endure. Those are the things that are really real, that are actually real. And Aletheia points us in this direction, so towards reality, but it's a little different. It's a little different. And this teaching comes to me from Len Sweet, but there's a lot of people. It started with Heidegger, and there's a lot of different people. But I'm going to try and put my own little stamp on it here. But I think it's just so important. So okay, why? Because if we translate the word aletheia, right, like just kind of almost transliterate it, what it's really talking about is unconcealing, or the unconcealed things. And that the truth of things is actually to enter into that which is to unconceal ourselves, or to unconceal what is present. If you think about a math problem, 2 + 2 = 4. There's that. It's not just this is what's true, because there's two things and there's two more things and then you get four things. It is that there is this unconcealing. There's this new awareness. There's this thing that has been revealed. There's a revealing. There's an unveiling in it. And this is at the quality, at the heart of what it is when we talk about truth. The 98 times that the New Testament talks about truth, it talks about unconcealing something. Now, why is that? And we've talked about this before, but it's worth repeating, because everything is about that. All of the problems of humanity are really built on the fact of concealing things. It is what we try and hide. We are master hiders. There are no such things as, we think about, I love this. Len Sweet made this point, and it just was brilliant. We talked about the 80s used to have this big seekers movement where we would see, everybody's seeking God. We're looking for God. Where's God? Oh gosh, he must have got lost on a highway, taken the wrong exit. Where is God? We're all seeking connection. We're seeking these things. And it's a filthy lie. It's a filthy lie. It is God that's seeking us. We're in the business of hiding. That's our business. Our racket is hiding. Our racket is concealing. Our racket is ensuring that we don't show too much to any one person or any one thing, and certainly not to God, because God would, judgment and all that kind of stuff. Certainly, we're in the business of, and you only have to look at the creation story to see it. We only look at the creation story. That when Adam and Eve are in the garden, they eat of the knowledge of good and evil, and they hide in the garden. And God's question to them is, "Why are you hiding?" And to which they respond, "Because because we've eaten from the fruit of the garden." And God's question again is, "Did you eat of the fruit of the tree I told you not to eat of?" Notice that God's job is to ask questions and investigate, to unconceal what is actually happening on. The first great problem is that we're hiding from God. And then what happens is, what does Adam do? He says, "The woman gave it to me." Now we're hiding from each other. Now we're concealing ourselves from each other. And then Cain and Abel come along, and Cain conceals Abel's death. And now we're hiding from the world. That we're principal, central in concealing ourselves. And that it is in this sense, in our failure to open ourselves up first to God and then to others, that we end up not being in the truth, not being as we might be. And that's not that we need to walk around and anybody you've met that kind of walks around letting it all hang out, like you don't really want to hang out with those people either. Like, because there's a way that's baked into the cake of where we do. There's a concealing we're all accustomed to, right? If you want to build intimacy with somebody, there's a trust that has to take place because there's an unveiling of truth that has to go along, and we have to demonstrate to each other that we're capable of holding that trust. I mean, this is what happens in relationship over time. That all of it though is born in this idea of what the truth is, which is the truth is the unconcealing, is the unhiding, is the unveiling of ourselves and being. This unveiling, so I want you to hear it a little bit. I'm going to play a little game here. This is from one of the places that aletheia is used as truth. And again, 98 times in the Old Testament is in 1 John. And John is big at holding up this notion of that what is true is actually unconcealing. So John writes the first his first letter, which is really this admonition to his early church to say, hey, look, this is what matters. What matters is loving God. What matters is loving God. What matters is loving God. And so he's parsing out all these things that get in the way of that. And so he starts talking about this. And so just hear this. So I'm going to change the word, the truth, that into the unconcealed, into unconcealing, because that's so hear how it changes what we understand when we think about truth. 1 John 1:6. If we say that we have fellowship with him, with God, and yet walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the unconcealing. If we say that we have no sin, we are deceiving ourselves in the unconcealing, and it's not in us. The one who says, I have come to know him and does not keep his commandments is a liar, and the unconcealing is not with him. I have not written to you because you do not know the unconcealing, but because you do know it, and because no lie is of the unconcealed. Are you hearing it? Can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you feel what that is? What that's inviting us to? That this truth thing that we think is like, some kind of like book sitting on top of a mountain somewhere that we have to go like on this great journey to go find, is actually this intimate invitation to be as we are, where we are before God, and then unfolding that before humanity. This is not about this is not about transcendence. I mean, this is again, we think that we're working on enlightenment and transcendence. We're trying to get out of here, right? All the Gnostic heresies that we can add up. But no. We're trying to get in here. Spirit, the Lord's presence, just as God came into the world to incarnate with us, God's trying to get into our lives. God is trying to get into our bodies, into the fabric of our being, into the operation of our days, into the tasks and the work of what we'd set our hand to and what we give our affections to and our love. God's trying to get into that. God's trying to incarnate in that and be in us. And that the only way to do that is to pull back the veil, to stop hiding, to come out from behind the bush that we would set up between him and us, to come out and reveal our true selves. I have a friend of mine that works in the recovery community, and he says this image, in working with addicts, he says this image work is probably more powerful than any other image he's come across. Because so much of what happens when people fall into addiction is this journey of concealing and of hiding. That and this is before they even get into the patterns of addiction itself, which bring a lot of lying and all that sort of stuff with it. But even just the problem of the world. The problem of the world is that they had to hide from it, and that they kind of picked a substance to do that with. And he says that this image, this understanding that what really is true, what truth really is this invitation into the unconcealing of our lives and ourselves and our being before God, and simply placing it forward and then seeing what God will do with it. John 1:3-18. Little children, let us love not with word or with tongue, but in deed and in unconcealing. Oh, can you feel it? So Monday we are, there's a bunch of us that are getting together to go down Cape to honor one of our beloveds who will be memorialized, a guy by the name of Rick Dreyer. And if you know Rick and you had the opportunity to journey with him, you are a blessed person for it. Because one of the things I think that was so powerful about Rick, and what really was his power in this world, is actually that he was pretty unconcealed. And that's not to say he didn't have agendas, and not to say he wouldn't flash that $1 million smile at you to get his way, and that he had things he wanted to get done. But he was not. But it was not necessarily guile, or he was plenty smart and plenty crafty. But it was this way in which he simply lived into the truth of what was, and lived a life that was largely in the practice of unconcealing. I don't know how many people through this week I have heard stories tell of this very thing. And what it was an honesty and it's not, and when I say honesty, it's not about truth telling, it's not about like getting the facts correct, or it's not about being guileless, but it's about an honesty of action. I remember one story of people telling me how he took an interest in one of the kids in the church, and would show up randomly at their baseball games, and just to cheer him on. That would take, and that because they cared about him, it wasn't this kind of subterfuge or something like that, but would simply support them in their athletic endeavors. That when somebody got hurt at their home, and they were a friend of the church, and then he would walk. He actually took them and walked them up to the hospital. A little kid brought him up to the hospital to get the splinter out of their hand. And if you don't know Rick, he was president of the hospital, and he walked in with one of the kids from the church to get the splinter out of their finger that nobody else could seem to get. There's an honesty in it. There's a unconcealed affection in it. There's a beauty in it. And I think, and the more I hear stories of and when I first came to this church and got to meet Rick, that about his honest journeying of how he loved the church, how he loved his wife, about how he endeavored in the things of life, that he truly had a true soul, and I think an unconcealed soul. So if you never got to meet Rick, I'm going to put his tribute in the comments, so that, because I think we can all actually benefit from just reading his journey and just seeing it. So we're going to do that on Monday, and lift up one that is dear to us, and one who has walked the path of being unconcealed before God and his fellow man, and in that gave us all a great and beautiful gift. So glad that each one of you are here. We're going to worship on Sunday. I hope you'll be a part of that, whether it's here online or whether it is a part of, or whether you'll be right here at 282 Rock Street. It's going to be awesome. And I hope each of you will make an endeavor to live into the truth, to live into the unconcealed life. Start with God and move into the relationships and the beauty of the people around you, and you will find, I guarantee it, you will find a world that will come alive in your offering and your gift, just as it did for those of us who got the privilege of hanging out with Rick Dreyer and his unconcealed life in our midst. All right, friends, that's my hope for you today. Peace and grace to you, and we will pick it up next week. Good morning, Linda. John, glad you made it in. Good morning, Jane. John, oh, great to see you all. Peace and grace, my friends, and be well. We'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.